Coming up on the Booth Review, are you ready for a real Tell the Truth Tuesday?
Yeah, it was a rough one against the Chicago Bears on Monday night.
We got a tough stretch coming up. How do we right the ship fast?
It's coming up on the Booth Review. Welcome into the latest edition of the Booth Review podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein with Big Fletch, London Fletcher. We're brought to you by Microsoft Surface Copilot Plus PC, and we are in the Big Bear AI Command Center studio off of London. That might be the biggest gut punch that they've had in a year plus with Dan Quinn and the whole new era that's going on here. That was a tough one last night.
Very tough, and I know how I felt after that ball game, and I know how you felt because we were together walking out of the stadium, and extremely disappointed in the outcome of the game. I can't even imagine what the players have to feel like after that ball game when it seemed like we had the game in control and we're in a situation where bleed the clock out, get a first down, and hope score some points and put the Bears in a precarious position. But man, that one hurt. That one hurt. I'm still feeling that one.
Yeah, I am too. I think it's the closest thing that I can remember in the year plus. Maybe that first Dallas game a year ago, the way it kind of ended, where they got back into it and Turpin had that kickoff return for a touchdown, and it felt like a gut. Then they had the Terry play, and it looked like they were going to go to overtime, and they didn't. That felt like a gut punch. But we were in a very different state of the season. This is now 3-3. This was a very hyped game, because of all the subtext of what happened from a year ago. And it was home, and I think that's the other part of it that was tough. Fourth quarter lead disappears for a variety of reasons that we're going to get into. So I just kind of want to start with this. If you were in that locker room, what would you be saying to your teammates?
Well, first I'd get them to understand that we're only 6 games into the season. We're 3-3, and you look at it, we're only 1 game out of our division lead. The Eagles, they got the 1-game division lead. So let's understand that. Think big picture-wise, but the only thing we can control now is how we prepare for our next ball game against the Dallas Cowboys. Let's not make this bigger than what it is. And when I say it's important, don't get me wrong. We have to understand why we lost that football game. The things that need to be corrected, especially things that are happening over and over and over again, like you consistently see these same things showing up week in and week out. Those things have to be corrected. Like, we cannot continue to do certain things. From that standpoint, it's like, okay, the leaders, you gotta make sure you're, first of all, showing how you want guys to prepare, showing how you want guys to practice, and then come game day, making sure you're producing and doing all the things you need to do, but also elevating and bringing up the younger guys and the other parts of this team. So that's how you get over this. We've been up and down, man. Win a game, lose a game, win a game, lose a game. So we have to start playing a more consistent brand of football.
A couple of weeks ago after they lost to Atlanta, Joe Witt admitted like they had heard some of the noise and people were saying things specifically about the defense entirely and maybe some specific players. This one felt a little different last night, and I would argue keep the noise out of here because it's easy to finger point at a lot of different directions here, right? Like, because Jaden and Bill had a mishandled snap that gave the Bears the ball at a very inopportune time. The defense also didn't get a stop there. They also gave up a long touchdown. There are 3 turnovers to talk about, not just that one. There was a missed field goal, and they still lost by 1. This is a team loss.
Absolutely.
This is a team loss here. I think that needs to be reiterated. This is a team loss because I saw some finger pointing on the outside going on, and you don't want any finger pointing.
That's on the outside.
Here.
That's on the outside. I'll tell you this, Bram. Every time you lose a game, the very first thing that a player does, regardless of how he played in that football game, is going to say, man, what could I have done differently? What could I have done to help change the outcome of this ball game? Whether you're a defensive player, if I make this play, that changes this outcome. We don't get to put us in this situation. If I do this, if you're offensive guy, if I make this block, we get a 10-yard gain, and now we're not forced to punt. If I catch this pass, if I make this block, and Jaden has a little bit longer to hold on to the football and deliver to a wide open guy. So that's the thing that I've seen more guys do than anything. We look internally and say, what can I do differently what could I have done differently to help win that ball game? That's what the good teams do. That's what the pros do.
Yeah. And so let's get into some of the big issues here. -3 isn't going to cut it. Whoever it is. And that is
not at all.
They didn't get any takeaways, and they also turned the ball over 3 times. Granted, they did get a turnover on downs, which in my book basically counts as a turnover. They did block a field goal. That also feels like a turnover, but it doesn't count.
It's a momentum shift.
It's a momentum shift. But -3, in any game or over the course of a season is just frankly not going to cut it. And they'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's Dick Vermeil. When I played for him, he used to, and maybe even Mike Shanahan too, used to have these statistics of your +1 in the turnover ratio, +2, +3, the percentages or the likelihood of you winning. Now, -1, -2, -3, these are the likelihoods of you losing that ball game. So, -3, I wish I'd have looked this up, but your percentages, the odds of you winning that ball game are slim enough. But for us to be even in the game, like you said, this was after 2 turnovers. We didn't get that last turnover to the end.
Yeah.
But to be -2 and got the lead and you're driving, putting yourself in position to put any more points on the game, that says a lot about this football team. They're a resilient team. They're not gonna quit. They're gonna continue to fight. But there's a way. Like, why did we have these turnovers? Why are we getting off to such slow starts? Those are the things you got to continue to dig and kind of peel back the layers to figure out.
Okay, so let's take on the 3 turnovers here, and we'll take them each. I'm going to do it backwards because the last one, clearly gave the Bears life. This was, had Washington converted on a 3rd and 1, it's unlikely that the Bears would have left themselves enough time, if they had any at all, without letting Washington score to get the ball back. And at that point, it could have been a 9-point game. The game would have been over. The rain, I think, plays an issue here a little bit. It started to rain again. But what did you see on the missed exchange between Jaden and Bill?
Well, I saw that. It looked like, Jaden, for one reason or another, never got control of the football, whether it was a slick football, rain, whatever. Jaden said he lost focus or he needed to make sure he's staying focused. I love that part of him saying, I'm not going to, regardless of the weather. That means they were in shotgun the whole game. So, and it was raining a good portion of the game. So he handled wet balls all game long. For some reason, at that particular time, it was an inopportune time that it happened. He never got control of the football, but he's still understanding maybe I'll be still able to get this ball to Bill, and he just never had full control of it, and that led to the fumble, and we didn't recover it. So that's what I saw. Wet ball, dry ball, rain, whatever the snow, rain, sleet, or snow. You got to handle those footballs.
How about the Bill fumble the first go around in the first half?
The Bills fumble, first of all, I thought the Bears and their defensive game plan was outstanding in terms of how they wanted to stop us. They ran a lot of pressure packages, and we're just not against the pass. They had a lot of run blitzes too. So on that play, you got defensive linemen slanting to where Bill was trying to run the ball. They're right in his face, so he spins. And as he's spinning, he's also trying to stiff arm a guy. So he's only having the ball with one arm. And people will say, hey, if you're spinning and you're in traffic, cover it up with 2. But in his mind, he's stiff arming a guy to make that spin, and guy punched the ball out. So a lesson learned, understanding when and where there's a time and a place to kind of make those type of plays. Good play by them. Bill, this second week in a row that he's fumbled. So It's an issue where teams will now start to continue to punch at the football against him until he shows that he's not going to be viewed as a guy who fumbles the football. I don't think he is, but that's what I saw on that fumble.
And with Jaden, there were 2 gaffes, really, which is very unusual. I think that's why we're all kind of like surprised today at some of them. The fumble, the mishandled snap, slash exchange at the end of the game, and then a red zone interception. It was his first interception of the year.
Right.
And it's unusual that he puts the ball in harm's way almost ever, really, and in this case as well. So what did you see on the Brisker interception?
Yeah, so the first thing you have to know, or you as the coaches, you have to ask, and did he make the right decision with the football? was throwing that seam ball, that pass to Debo, the right decision based on the Bears' coverage structure. Now, it looked like it was cover 3, and I don't know if that safety that outside defender ended up reading that as a kind of a second man through the zone, and he carried Debo, and maybe they weren't anticipating him carrying Debo in practice or whatever. That route was open against that cover 3, which typically it would be if he read it differently and maybe Jaden didn't see it soon enough, then it just they made a nice play. Guy did something we weren't expecting, made an interception. If he went to the right place with the football, maybe was he supposed to put a little bit more air on it, but there was a safety coming over. So I don't think he needed to put more air on it, because if he does, now you give that safety a little bit more time to get over and deliver a hit on Debo, or maybe he's even in position to make the interception. So that's something that only they know as a coaching staff, whether the decision was where he decided to go with the football, whether that was correct, or maybe the Bears defensive player just made an outstanding play.
Yeah. I mean, they have 11 takeaways in the last 3 games. They had 4 in the previous 2.
Yep.
They had 3 here. 1 was clearly just a mishandled snap, but the other 2 very nice defensive plays that were made on their part. This is something that Washington's been trying to generate here. So I'll go back to -3 isn't going to win. Mm-hmm. This is 4 of 6 games that the team has not created a takeaway. They had 3 combined in the previous 2 games. What do you think is going on there that they're having a hard time generating takeaways? Granted, Sanders still easily could have had an interception.
Yes.
And on the 4th and 1 stop, Luvu could have had an interception, but either way, it was a turnover on downs.
Yeah, they had two interception opportunities that I look at. The Mikey one right in the end zone, close to the end zone, where, he couldn't make that catch. And he's a former receiver. He catches everything.
Yeah.
And then there was another one on a deep pass double move against Quan Martin. Quan and Darnell Savage were both in great position. And Caleb threw into double coverage, and I think it was Quan wasn't able to come up with that interception. So I thought that was another opportunity for us to get a takeaway. So we had 2 opportunities from a interception standpoint in that ball game. I think there was a potential whether it was a fumble on a kickoff return.
Yeah, it looked like Hamilton recovered it, but when we watched replay, even though for some reason they gave the ball to the Bears anyway, I think it would have been overturned because it looked like the returner's knee was down.
So think about this. We have the mishandled snap. Early in the ball game, Caleb Williams, they have a mishandled snap as well.
Yep.
And the ball ends up, it was on I think it was a 4th down play. No, it was, I don't know if it's 4th down, third and 1 maybe or something. But he ended up being able to corral the football, and we make the tackle on him in the backfield or whatever. But that was the difference. The ball bounced the Bears' way. He recovered it where we fumbled.
This happened in the Atlanta game too. Remember, Bijan fumbled the ball, and it happened to go back to Michael Penix, who was 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and they happened to get it back. So there is some luck that is involved with some of those things.
Especially with the fumbles.
Yeah.
Now, when you're punching it out, creating opportunities for you to potentially recover, you're creating those plays for yourself. The snap issue, that was something that,
We're going to revisit the offense with Logan in a little bit. I want to switch to the defense with you. I mean, we started with some of the takeaway stuff here. A recurring theme for the 6 games, and it's happened really on the road, but now it's happened at home, is the slow start, where they've gotten behind by double-digit points in the first half. This one actually feels different last night than the ones on the road, where they were getting dominated in time of possession, couple 3-and-outs to start, couldn't get stops early. All of a sudden you look up, they're in a giant hole. That actually wasn't the case last night. The Bears got the ball, went down the field, kicked a field goal.
Right.
Washington turned it over twice. It wasn't that they weren't moving the ball. They turned it over twice and looked up and saw the scoreboard 13-0. So did you feel that this slow start was different than the other ones that had happened previously?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say this, though. There was the opening drive. I felt like Ben Johnson, he was calling some really good plays. I thought all night he had some nice stuff dialed up. Could we have been better defensively, especially in the open drive, to not allow them to march down the field to get in position to kick that field goal and take the 3-0 lead? Yes, I think we could have made a few more plays. We could have all night. I didn't think we defended to stop the run well enough. DeAndre Swift, Swift, 14 carries, 108 yards,
150 plus from scrimmage.
Yeah, we didn't fit the run, didn't tackle well enough. I thought from a pass cover standpoint we were good enough, but it was more disappointing about the stopping the run, being in the right gaps, fitting it correctly, and the tackling.
It's been interesting, like with Swift, he's had big games against his team in various jerseys, actually, through the years. He had another big one last night. Bears, there's two things that occurred last night. I think we're going to get into the offensive part of it with Washington for a moment. Washington came in number one rush offense. Bears came in with second to worst rush defense. And in fact, like historically bad yards per carry through the 4 games they had played. And so we just assumed Washington would gash them, run the ball really well. That didn't really happen. I'll revisit that. Washington's rush defense has been a lot better this year. Just in general, they have had problems with tight ends. That team has 2 of them, a first-round pick and Cole Kmet. They ended up with nothing, like 2 catches, 11 yards. DJ Moore, Roma Dunze's numbers, 7 catches, 65, 70 yards, like really no production. It was Swift, and in the running game, that was a surprise to me. So what did you see from the Bears running game that kind of got him going last night?
Well, it was a lot of the outside zones were attacking the edges of our defense, either outside zone or toss plays, pin and pulls, things like that to get to the perimeter. And we didn't, especially with the outside zone, we got reached a couple times. Guys got out of their blocks, out of their gaps a couple times. And then there were other times where missed tackles where, hey, we got a guy who should be making this tackle that missed a tackle. As far as the toss plays or the outside plays, especially late, not fitting it up correctly, not having a hard enough edge. I'll tell you this, Wright, 58, he did a really nice job on the last big run by Swift where Preston Smith actually did a really good job of defeating the down block on him, and he got up to the field, but Wright got just enough of a hand on Preston to slow him down to allow Swift to get outside of him, and then Wright went up and blocked the guy he was supposed to block, which maybe was corner or safety, I can't remember. So he did a really nice job, but it's just something that we're going to have to get shored up because these teams are going to do these same type of runs over and over and over again. I don't think they'll consistently have success against us doing it. You're not going to be able to run in the middle of our defense consistently, not with the way Kinlaw and Payne and those guys play the run inside. They're going to be attacking our edges, and we got to make sure we're doing what we need to do.
And the other thing in this, listen, I thought the big play that really turned the game back in potentially the Bears' favor was what should have been a 10 to 15-yard catch on a third down conversion to Swift turned into a 55-yard touchdown. And it's interesting when everyone keeps talking about they give up the big plays, there have been some to receivers, but largely this year where either the matchup or issues have been with really good receiving tight ends, which that didn't happen last night, and they have 2 of them, or it's happened with a really good active receiving running back out of the backfield where the matchup is troublesome for them, and that bit them again last night with Swift.
Yeah, they did. I thought the Bears, we blitzed several times on third downs in that ball game. We were able to get to Caleb, get pressure on him, get sacks, or force inaccurate throws. The Bears kind of anticipating us being in a man-to-man defense based on that call. I thought it was a really nice play call by them, play design, getting Swift, kind of motioning him out, putting him in the bunch formation, and letting him run an option route. He was going to catch the ball for a first down. Now the thing is, okay, he caught the first down. Let's get him out. Let's get him down. Make the tackle. He put a little stutter step on Quan like he was about to go inside, and that made Quan slow down just for a hair. And then when Swift kept down the sideline, now Quan's head is behind him. That's why that played a part in him breaking that tackle. The majority of the tackles, the best way to tackle somebody, you want to have your head across their body so you can knock them back or knock them out of bounds or whatever. But because Quan had to slow down for a second and then Swift hit the acceleration again, now he's trying to make that tackle. His head is behind Swift, but his arms are up top, and I know people, I'm thinking, just get him out of bounds, push him out of bounds, whatever the case may be. It ended up, after looking at it, it wasn't as easy as it seemed, but you got whatever you got to do, you got to make the tackle.
People see him running down the sideline, push him out of bounds, get him out of bounds, whatever it may be.
And it was man-to-man across the board, so it's not like you're going to have a bunch of other guys that can rally to make that tackle.
One of the things that I think there was concern about is everybody has respect for what Ben Johnson's building and what he's done from an offensive game plan. They had 2 weeks again. They were off of a bye. They had actually scored a lot of points in the first quarter. Mm-hmm. We figured they would switch some things up. I think we were all fearing trick plays. What were they going to draw up for a couple of weeks? We actually didn't really see much of that from them last night. But did they do anything offensively that you think might have been a surprise and a switch up for the Commanders' defense last night?
No, not at all. Not at all. They were a heavy play action team coming into the ball game. They ran a lot of play action in that ball game. They were a screen team. They ran screens in the ball game. They ran the ball better than they had been running. So that was probably the only surprise. But in terms of
Swift was 3.3 a carry coming into the game. They were not running the ball well. Granted, you mentioned Darnell Wright. He had missed the last game. Mm-hmm. They had some switching around going on with their offensive line. They had started an undrafted second-year player for the first time at left tackle. So they were moving some parts around.
So in terms of as far as our defense getting some looks or some plays that they weren't prepared for, I didn't see that coming again. Same type of runs that they had always run. They just ran them better, and some of that is a credit to the Bears, but a lot of that is also on us as well. But, heavy play action. There were times where Caleb had a long time, too much time, especially early in the ballgame, where he was able to allow his receivers to uncover, so to speak, or they're running across the field against man-to-man coverage. I remember a pass to DJ Moore, maybe another one of Rome Dunze, off the play action where they're just running these deep over routes, deep crossing routes. Because he had so much time, he was able to complete those passes.
I think Caleb's light years ahead of where he was a year ago.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And he got sacked almost 70 times last year. This year, I don't remember what the number was for the Commanders, 3 or 4, something like that last night.
We got 3 last night.
3. So it's just 10, and so it's way different. It's half of what he was giving up a year ago. He seems to be playing more in the context of the system. He and Ben Johnson seem to be getting on the same page. When he does improvise at times, that's where he gets himself seemingly in trouble. He took a hit from Luvu last night that I could not believe he took. He just stopped on the sideline and took this leveling shot from Luvu last night.
Well, the thing is, he has so much confidence in his ability to make plays outside of the pocket. And he's in his mind, he's a passer first when he's out of the pocket. Yeah. He's not thinking about running, so he's constantly keeping his eyes down the field. And I'm looking like, man, this play's over. He's going to just throw it away. But he decided to keep trying to go down the sideline.
Yeah.
And he got rocked by Luvu.
But I will say, I think he's getting better. And I do wonder, too, just before we get Logan in, I want you to kind of take us through, now that it's over, this was a wildly hyped game. The game from a year ago speaks for itself at what happened. They've had weird games with that team for the last few years. Different staffs, they had the weird ending in the one on that Thursday night game in Chicago where Benjamin St. Juste made a play on the half-yard line that sealed a win. Is there something about when you're playing a team where the outcomes typically are strange, maybe to be the best way to put it, that adds to kind of the element when you're going out on the field and playing a team like that?
Oh, sure. Sure, there is. We're starting to develop a little bit of a rivalry with the Chicago Bears, although they're not in our division because we played them every year. I know since I've been calling the games, we played them every year. And then you add in the Caleb Jaden dynamic, the Hail Mary dynamic. So this then last night's game just added to that trilogy or whatever you want to call it, I don't know, whatever you want to call our story or contest with those guys. It's going to probably be close games every time we link up, or the expectations are it's going to be a close game, and it's something crazy is probably going to happen down the stretch.
Yeah, when you were with the good St. Louis teams, was there an intersection with somebody that was became kind of a rival? Because I see this Washington with Chicago.
It was one year with the Saints that became a rival. They got really good in 2000, a year after we won the Super Bowl. We actually split during the regular season. They beat us in our place, and then we beat them in their place, and then played them again in the playoffs that year. And they actually hosted, and we lost to them, forced them to kick a punt at the end of the game, end of possession. I think we were down maybe 3. They punted, muff punt. They recover. Game over.
But don't you feel like, I mean, this has everything. Caleb's number 1 pick, Jaden's number 2 pick. They've played weird games against one another. They both feel like they're kind of rising at the same time. They're intersecting at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Tom Brady Peyton Manning would be greats on their own.
Right.
But them together, intersecting through their careers. Mahomes has Allen. This has the feeling of, we just saw episode 2 of many, as these two kind of intersect over the next, I don't know, 3, 5, 10 years.
You hope that we'll have some truly meaningful matchups for between these two teams. I know the networks would love it, where we're playing each other in the playoffs, and it might still happen this year.
Who knows? Right.
NFC Championship
3-3
games.
People seem to have forgotten that part a little bit today. It's 3-3, 1 game back of the division lead. Nothing's settled here.
Nothing settled, but I will say this. In order to get to where we want to be and be the football team that we want to be, we're going to have to play better in every facet and do it more consistently.
Yeah. All right. So we went through the defense. Let's bring out Logan Paulsen. We'll do Paulsen from the Pines. We get into the offense, and we kind of went through all of the turnovers. Maybe we'll get your thoughts a little bit on that, but I just want to have a general sense of where you are on the offense last night. 3 turnovers, missed field goal, 24 points. I don't think in the end, if you really think about it, that was all that bad of a performance on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, did they play well enough to win the game? Sure. But I think when you kind of step back objectively, like, would you like to be more efficient running the football? Sure. You can't turn the football over twice, a couple penalties in critical situations. And I'm not trying to say that they did anything badly, right? I think you'd probably say that's a solid C+ performance. But I think if I'm Cliff Kingsbury coming in today, I'm saying there are some things we could have done better. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I think that's the thing that I take away is I thought I heard you guys talking about the Bears and their plan, how to stop the run with 8-man boxes, line stunts, first down pressures. That's going to become a formula, I think, to stop what we're doing moving forward. So can you learn from it? Can we find more ways on the perimeter to get our guys to win in man-to-man coverage? Yeah.
Here's what I will say. We're going to get that same type of game plan and structure defensively because that's what teams do, until we get healthier at the receiver position.
I agree.
Now, these are the guys that Chris Moore made plays, Luke made plays for us, Jalen made plays for us, and during the absence of Terry and Noah. But what defense is going to say is, can these guys consistently over 60 minutes make plays? So once we get healthy, until we get healthy, we'll see that same type of structure.
Yeah, and I think you're just playing percentages on the defensive side of the football, right? Yep. You're basically saying if we flip a coin, like it's not 50-50 if Chris Moore beats our starting corner because while he had a good performance and made a great play and is a contributing member to this team, like he's not going to win that statistical matchup the same way Terry McLaurin's going to win. And that's why Terry's making $50 million and Chris Moore is a practice squad guy, right? Yeah. Like it just tips the deck statistically in your favor. So with regards to the offense, I think Jaden had to do a lot of heavy lifting. I think he played pretty well on the whole.
And Debo wasn't healthy.
Yeah, I think that's another thing too. And you could just feel like, watching the All-22, you could feel the lack of kind of speed and vertical juice into the defense and how they could just kind of sit over top. So did they play okay? Yeah, I think so. But are there some things that I think this game reveals that I think need to be addressed moving forward? Yes. And I think that comes out of every game. But and the other thing too, to your point, Bram, that I'm always trying to remind myself is this is an offensive-led football team in my mind, right? Even when they're not healthy. Like they need to score a lot of points. Like they need to offload some of that from the defense. So when you say it's a good performance, yes, but in order for this team to consistently win football games, the way we've built the roster, the way we've constructed the defense, they need to score a lot of points. And that's maybe unfair, but that's the way I look at it.
Well, I mean, look what they did in the offseason. They went and traded for Laramie Tunsil to bolster the line, which has a trickle-down effect to the rest of the line that hopefully makes it better. They used their first-round pick on a right tackle. They trade to get Deebo Samuel in here to get explosive playmakers. They draft Bill. They draft Lane. They're looking for speed. I think they've hit on Bill. I know the fumbles and all that, but I think they've hit on him as much as you could ask of a seventh-round pick. This team needs to be led by its offense, but they haven't had this group healthy since day one of training camp. Not once. They haven't had this group healthy once. And I'm hoping in the very near future, you're going to see that. But again, they're going to have to incorporate people in. Terry hasn't played in a few weeks. Noah Brown hasn't played in a month. Even if they are healthy, it's still going to take time. But I agree with you. In the end, for them to get where they want to get to, the offense is going to have to be the dominant side of the ball.
I know you're going to dissect the game. You probably watched it 3 times already. Offensively, with the run game, and we've been able to run the football against everybody for the most part. This game against the Bears, who we know they were 31st ranked run defense in the National Football League.
He hated that narrative going in.
Because it happens where teams have games,
especially coming out of the bye.
And you can tell. Do you think even without the healthy guys on the perimeter, imagine we go into Dallas, same guys. Do you feel like Dallas will be able to replicate that same type of game plan? And are there things, if we correct on our end, that if we do a couple things differently, we'll be able to run the ball?
So this is just my opinion. I haven't talked to anybody about this. Just my observation. I do feel like if you want to be a dyed-in-the-wool running the football team, like this is who we are, live by the sword, died by the sword team. Like you need to have certain qualities to the front, right? Like you need to get in kind of like tighter splits. You need to get receivers to crack safeties. Like think about what Detroit does, right?
Yeah.
It's like all these content splits. Kyle Shanahan, when they're all healthy, like they get in these like kind of boxy formations. And so I kind of feel like right now Cliff is of two worlds, which is really hard to do. He's installed kind of this like jumbo, heavy, 13 personnel look with Trent's extra offensive lineman, and they've got some diverse run looks there, but they haven't mastered those looks. Does that make sense? Yeah. And they present enough novelty versus teams that are going to play light boxes that they're able to hit big runs, right? But they also got the spread stuff, right? And so I think for Cliff, it's like, which card do you put down to manipulate the defense? So to me, I think they said, we're going to go big, we're going to go heavy, we're going to try and push you off the ball. In retrospect, and it's so easy for me to sit here on Tuesday and kind of have this thought, I would have thought some of the runs they ran versus the Chargers, where they got in the 3x1s, they forced guys to displace from the box. They forced them to declare who the blitzers are. Like the problem with those condensed sets is like you can blitz anybody, right? Everybody's right there. There's no indicator to the pressure. So I feel like they're kind of operating in two spaces. And I feel like for the game plan, sometimes Cliff says, or the staff says, we're going to go heavy, big, when in reality, like for them to be the best version of themselves running the football, because they don't major in that all the time, we got to go, hey, we're going to go light, spread them out, find our number count advantages and manipulate them that way. So in regards to your question of like, can they replicate? Anybody can replicate this. That's the thing. Stopping the run in the NFL, and Fletch can speak to this better than anybody, is just math. If you have 6 blockers, we have 8 defenders. And that's all the Bears did. It wasn't like this crazy complicated game plan. They played a lot of single high, a lot of man on the perimeter, and they said, we dare you. Yeah. And that's what they're going to do. And so can the Giants, can the Cowboys do it? Sure. It's like, do they trust their perimeter players to get it done?
It is a little bit, not to cut you off. I believe like a lot of this stuff is matchup related and matchup dependent. Okay, so look at the Bears coming into this. What's the strength of their defense coming in? Their secondary had actually been playing really well. And they got back Kyler Gordon, who hadn't played the entire year, right? Stevenson, who I know was a butt of a joke because of everything that happened with the Hail Mary, had been playing really, really well. They were turning the ball over, typically on the back end. They've been very physical. I think they looked at this and said, we favor this matchup. We trust our guys on the outside because we think that these guys can cover those guys and take our chances up front. We're going to stop them from running the ball. To your point, I dare you. Yeah. I've been waiting for a few weeks for a team to go, I dare you. With Terry McLaurin not on the field, with Noah Brown not on the field, The other teams hadn't really done that to them. I think the Bears were confident in the people that they had to do it, and it did for the most part. For the most part, work. They still gave up a long touchdown to Luke McCaffrey. They still gave up a long pass to Jalen Lane, and maybe that's just some of the risk reward you take for playing in a style like that.
Yeah, and I go back to also both their linebackers got healthy, and I thought both those guys, Edmonds and Edwards, played well. You feel their impact.
Yeah, Edwards had not played in a few weeks. Yes.
Yeah, and so you feel their impact in terms of what they bring from an athleticism, speed, tackling perspective. Going back to your initial point, Bram, of did they play well enough to win? I do think they played well enough to win because they were able to find some explosive shots. But I do think this game shows kind of some areas that need to be worked on and need to be improved. And that's every game, right? But I think that's where I'd kind of say, I get really reluctant to say, yes, they played well enough to win, when there's some other factors that need to be addressed, and especially when you're an offensive-driven football team. I think that's the thing I keep coming back to. When you're offensive-driven and you don't win, it wasn't good enough to win the game, if that makes sense.
One of the things that I saw where that prevented some runs from really breaking was there were a couple of times where, because of the stunning and stuff like that, you always talk about targeting targeting guys on your runs. There was some confusion.
There's some free hitters, yeah.
Free hitters on. It was a couple times where, okay, the linebacker was supposed to block, but wait, they changed the pitch on me, and now I don't block the correct linebacker, or they're doing a little stunt, they're knocking me off, and I can't get to the second level, stuff like that. So there was some stuff like that happened on a couple of occasions. There was one play where Bill was about to crease him, man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it was just that little split where he was able to get off a block because of the blocking scheme. I don't know if it was a lineman or tight end, oh, shoot, he's blitzing.
Yeah.
I got to block him instead of working to get this defensive end, and he was the one who makes the tackle.
Yeah. I think there's that's a really good example of what we're talking about is when you're living in heavy personnel and you're going to see heavy box structures, it changes the targets because there's another guy in there, right? Mm-hmm. So it's are we targeted to this guy? Are we targeted one back? You mentioned the pressures, right? So you're targeting a guy that's off the ball. We got to push back. They're peeling double teams. Now the receiver's in the blocking surface. He's used to blocking this guy, but he's actually got to block that guy. And I'd say would they run 30 runs? I'd say on 10 of them, there's moments where, and it's not their fault, because and having been in that situation, it happens so quickly. Because you're we're getting a line stunt. Okay, this is where we're targeted. And then on the move almost, you got to think, now I'm the guy that's going to the second level. I got to get to this opportunity. So I think there's a little bit of that. And so again, just getting experience with some of these heavier personnel runs, if this is going to be the solution, I think is something they got to look at. And again, it's so interesting when you think you have a solution in a game, and I call games at the high school level. So you think you've got a solution, but all of a sudden they've got a good response. You need to find a way to adjust to that. Yeah. And whether that's play action pass, whether that's some of these spread out formations to run the football, all of those things become things you need to consider. And it just, it's hard in the moment. But again, I think the Bears did a great job and I don't think the offensive line played badly. That's the other thing that's weird to say about.
It's not even just offensive line. It's
everybody.
It's tight ends, it's everybody. Everybody just part of the blocking.
They just threw a hard pitch. Yeah. And again, I remember being with Kyle here and Mike and them talking about the Indianapolis Colts, how they used to run that line stunt with the scrape over top with the linebackers. Yeah. And we would just rep that over and over and over and over. And so on game day, you could do it. But if you had a different run up that you hadn't repped it for, you'd be lost. So it's when they do stuff like that and you haven't prepped it, it puts you in a tough spot.
They also, to be fair too to Cliff and what they're trying to put together here, if you told me at the beginning of the summer that this team's going to be running Trent Scott as an extra offensive lineman on the field all the time, I would tell you you're crazy, because that's not going to be what they are. But when you are missing some of the people that you're missing on the outside, you have to adjust. Here's a team that had 2 weeks to prepare for this and had seen it for a couple of weeks, and Terry McLaurin is still not playing. Noah Brown is still not playing. So I think the Bears got a couple of weeks of looks at this and decided this is how we're going to attack it. And I'll go back to the other point. I think they liked their matchup on the outside with their corners and their safeties at the way they were playing against the outside options that Washington had. It was a recipe here, which is why I've landed on, in the end, they scored 24 points, could have had more than that. It was their turnovers, a missed field goal. They would have had 30 plus, and that would have won the game. amid the fact that they never got a takeaway in it.
Yeah.
They lost by a point with all of those mistakes that occurred.
Yeah, I do think the bye week is a big thing too, because they couldn't have done all that stuff. Like you watched the film before. Mm-hmm. Like the Giants' defense the focus was completely different. In terms of the Bears, I keep saying the Giants. The Bears defense was completely different. Like
they play with intensity that they hadn't played with either, and I think part of that intensity, because prior to looking at their film, especially the run defense, I was like, man, they just don't get much disruptive play. They don't play on the other side of the line of scrimmage. Well, because they had such an aggressive defensive game plan to where they're stunning and they're blitzing, that puts them in an aggressive mindset. And you just saw, I mean, it was the entire game. They're playing on the other side of the ball. They're running and making plays. I mean, there was some running and hitting happening out there that I just hadn't quite frankly seen from them, especially in the run game.
Yeah, I totally agree. And again, I remember watching the Dallas game versus the Bears, and they're running GT, they're running counter, and they're blowing guys off the ball. They're running pin pull, and I'm like, these are all runs that the Commanders run. They should be good. But then they come out in a completely different front, completely different mindset. And I think the mindset is the thing.
And another thing they did when the zone read play. Yeah. They were just sending that defensive end or whoever was the end man on the line of scrimmage, they were sending him at Jaden.
Had a good plan.
All the time. Now, it was a couple times we were like, okay, maybe you should have handed this ball off Jaden just because of how they were playing it. But they was like, we're not going to allow him to get on the outside up against our defense.
We're accustomed to seeing Jaden scramble a lot because it is one of his powers. But it was noticeable to me, and I think to all of us when we were watching, that there were numerous times that he was waiting to throw. It wasn't like he was taken off very quickly. So the Bears also, with the aggressive front and how they were kind of handling the Washington rush offense, they got a pretty good plan on the back end too. He was forced to run, and I will give him credit. He looked more like himself than he really had since the injury when he did take off and was seemingly able to make yards with his legs last night.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to call this to attention is I think Jaden Daniels did a really good job. And that's going to sound crazy considering the fumble and the interception. But like in terms of his ability to elevate an offense, like it's apparent every time he's making a decision back there for you. Really, like there's times where it's like they're running a high cross and the hook player falls right underneath it. There's nowhere to go with the football. It's dead to rights. The pocket's closing around him. He's able to scramble for 10. He's able to scramble for 15. The play with Montez Sweat at the end of the game where he's able to shake him and scoot forward there to get to the third and short. Like, and again, like he's just so smart when it comes to that stuff and so fastidious with the football. And everyone.
What's that word you just used?
Fastidious. Fastidious, deliberate, careful.
Okay. I've noticed it. I love it.
With the football that like, I think we're surprised he throws the interception, but there's probably 10 other times in the game, maybe 7, where you're like, he could have thrown a pick here, but he was being careful, being smart, being deliberate, and still managing to keep the offense on schedule. So really, like I got a question this morning about Caleb Williams versus Jaden Daniels. I felt like Jaden was kind of carrying the offense, through his playmaking ability.
Yes.
And it felt like Caleb was being elevated by the offense in a way that
he operated their offense and he operated their offense well.
Yeah.
I think that's good for him. Not that this is a Caleb Williams show, but like
good for Caleb.
Yes. Yeah. That like the meeting of the minds between those two is going to be, can Ben Johnson get him to trust him in the offense and not go rogue constantly where he gets sacked a million times or makes these kind of crazy Mahomesian plays that don't end up with the Mahomesian highlight.
Right.
And I think we saw that last night. With 2 weeks off, I think we all were sitting there going, what are they cooking up? What's it going to look like? You're not going to, I thought he just played within the context of their offense. It didn't seem like that much of a surprise. And he was executing within the context of it, which I think is the maturation for him. Daniels came in as in a different spot. I don't even think they're the same player. In a different spot. Like, he was operating the offense early.
Yeah.
Like Williams had to trust the offensive coordinator. Daniels and Cliff seemed to trust each other here. And that started almost from the get-go.
Yeah. And it goes back to Dan and Adam and their ability to create a positive ecosystem for the quarterback and all those decisions, like with bringing all the offensive linemen in, because even though they had a tough time on first and second down, I thought they pass protected for the most part really, really well. McNichols did a great job and they gave him an opportunity to see the field. I think you feel some of the injuries on the perimeter, and I'm trying to say that as nicely as possible because I have a lot of
that's fair.
I have a lot of respect for Luke and a lot of respect for Chris Moore.
And I appreciate that because as people are watching this, Those guys have done an outstanding job.
They've done a great job, so I'm not trying to take away from them.
They have done a great job, but I think what you hit the nail on the head when you said defensively, we're just going to play the percentages.
Yeah.
And we're going to say, hey, if these guys can consistently beat us, what are you saying? Hey, what's our best way to win this game?
Right.
We're gonna go all out on stopping the run.
Yep.
And we do that, somebody's going to have the short end of the stick. It's going to be the corners. Y'all going to have to hold up in man-to-man coverage. And if they consistently beat us man-to-man, you tip your hat off to them, tip your cap and say, all right, they did it.
Yeah.
So you're just saying, hey, this is the approach that we're going to take.
There's nothing wrong with saying that the player that they just gave a very nice, lucrative long-term extension to is missed when he's not on the field with the team. It's not an indictment of the other players.
That I'm not hating on.
No,
because I was a role player too, so I don't want people thinking calling kettle here.
But this is a different team when Terry McLaurin is healthy and standing out there as opposed to not being out there, which he hasn't been for a few weeks.
We're going to even if we say, hey, we're going to stop the run, we're going to be forced to play you totally different when you got a healthy Deebo Samuel, you got a healthy other proven playmakers that have done it over a course of a career. I'm going to have to, maybe there's going to have to be some change. We know we can't cover this guy man-to-man in critical situations. We're going to have to change our defense. We might have to play a little bit more zone in certain situations. We're going to have to do a little thing. We might have to spy Jaden because we want to play man, but we also need to provide a little bit more safety help. So it's just a different structure.
I think it just goes back to, like, if you said at the beginning of summer that we're going to be in these jumbo packages all the time, it's happening because they're trying to adjust to what they have and the best way they think they can win. And then when they start to get some of these other players back for them, they may adjust back in a different way. What does that adjustment period look like? I don't know. And that's why I would just kind of say, I think the offense has performed very well, with the exception of the turnovers. That's the part that's unacceptable. But I think it's performed very well considering the circumstances and all of the changing things. And last night they hit a team that had a couple weeks to prepare for it and had seen them do this for a couple of weeks. And unfortunately, guys like Terry and Noah weren't ready to return. And frankly, Deebo's not 100% running out there. So I think they've done a really nice job, which goes back to, I think they did enough to win. I don't think the offense played all that poorly. The turnovers are the rough thing that just kind of can't happen, especially one at the end of a game when you're trying to win. But overall, I'd ask it again. 24 points, never got a short field, never got a takeaway in their favor, missed a field goal. They very well, to me, I don't think they played poorly last night. I think they did the best that they could, even as we're talking about that the matchup wasn't great for them, and the Bears adjusted and said, you're not going to run the ball on us the way that you've run the ball on other teams.
This is one of those things, I usually go through and grade every play and give it a green if it's good, yellow if it's neutral, red if it's positive, right? So in a game like this, I didn't have time because we got back at 3 a.m. or whatever, but this would be a game where it's there's a lot of green in the ledger, but the red plays are very red.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think not all plays, not play 1 through 60 are not the same, And so understanding that as a fan of this team, you say, oh, they played really well except for the turnovers or except those are the things that characterize this game. It's Quan Martin had a really good game outside of one play. And that play was a big play. And so that to me, that is kind of the narrative of this game. It's God, man, Quan, great job on Roma Dunze covering that wheel route. You're one-on-one with their number one receiver. Great job fitting this run, sniffing out great. But the play that you missed counts for a little bit more because of how it happened. And I've had plays like that. I've had fumbles, I've had sacks given up that have changed the complexion of the game. And I tell this story all the time. I had a game versus the Giants in 2013 where it was the highest graded game of my career, but I had a fumble in 2 minutes and they picked it up and went back and scored. And so the coach came up to me after and was like, not all plays are created equal. And he just left it at that. And I was like, shit. You know what I'm saying? And that to me is this game in a nutshell.
So let me get your reaction to what London and I were talking about at the beginning, which was clearly they beat themselves in some ways by the mistakes that occurred. The fumble at the end of the game, the touchdown that was given up to Swift, a missed field goal, 2 other turnovers, 1 in the red zone, not getting a takeaway. Once again, fourth time in 6 games hasn't happened for them. Otherwise, this maybe isn't a 1-point loss. Maybe it's one of those where they won, but you go, hey, if they'd cleaned it up, they would have won by more. Like one of those type of things.
Right.
It's a tough it's a gut punch, like a total gut punch. So what are you thinking about in the locker room after something like that?
I mean, exactly that, man. It's like, Fletcher and I have been on teams that have played games like this where you've just given it to them. And it's so frustrating because you want to blame somebody else. You're looking for some reason, but it's right here. And I think that as a player, that's how I felt in these moments. It was just like, man, we just did that all to ourselves.
Right.
And I think that makes it worse. Because sometimes you're in a game and you're like, man, you know, that DeMarcus Ware over there, or that TJ Watt, like he's way better than me. Like, I'm going to tip my hat. Good game.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago they played.
Coach, I'm supposed to be the help, but I need some help.
Yeah, right.
A couple of weeks ago, Bijan had this big game. People were calling people out, and I go, that guy's the best player in the NFL. Watch what happened last night with what he did.
And so that's, I think, that's why this, today, it hurts so much more because it's like, there's nobody to blame but the people in the locker room.
Yeah.
And that's hard. And I've been there, and Fletcher's been there. And you just got to sit that, eat your medicine and say, how do we learn from these moments? And I think the cool thing, quite honestly, is that Jaden Daniels gets the podium last night and says, like, I just have to be more aware. And like to take that ownership immediately after shows a lot of maturity on his part, I think.
Is a short week a good thing or a bad thing for them this week?
Well, it's good from the standpoint you get an opportunity to play a football game quickly, hopefully get this sour taste out of your mouth. But the preparation, obviously, Monday Night Football, and you're about to get on the road, it condenses things. It's a little bit added another element to the preparation. But DQ will have the guys ready to play. That's the great thing about it. They will have the guys ready to play football.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good. Like I said, if I'm them, and I'm just speaking from my own experience, like I want to play as soon as possible to get to actualize all the corrections that we're going to make from this game, all the learning that's happened, and go show that isn't us necessarily.
Right.
How about it being a rivalry game? Does that matter here too? It's Dallas.
It's probably helpful, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah,
because you know them really well.
Yeah, you know them, and this game's going to be hyped up, 425 game. Majority of the country's going to see it because this has always been historically one of the best rivalries in sport, not just football.
And listen, their record's worse than Washington's. They just lost to Carolina. They've given up a ton of points. They're hearing it down there too.
They've been scoring a ton of points.
They've been scoring a ton of points. Yeah. I mean, this is a big week for both of these teams to prove something, which is, honestly, the only way I'd want to see it anyway, a Washington-Dallas game where both teams have a lot on the line.
Yeah. I mean, but it's at that point of the year where everybody's got a lot on the line. It's like you're getting to that point where you, like I heard Fletcher say this, it's like you got to start stringing some games together, and everybody's feeling that. Everybody's goal is to go to the dance, get to the show, and now's the time. You got to start winning some games, stacking them up, and again, they're feeling that same thing. And when that's happening, like that leads to some good football.
One of the things that was happening on the road, hopefully won't happen this weekend, slow starts. They've been outscored 27-0 in the first quarters of the previous road games. Last night, 13-0 Bears. I think it was, London and I were talking about it. I think it was a little different this time.
I was going to say.
The offense was slow starting on the road.
Bram made a good point.
What's that?
He's like, it wasn't really a slow start because they drove the football down earlier.
They turned it over.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about energy then and a better start, which what do you think is attributing to this repeating over and over?
Because if you get points off that first drive.
Yeah,
the Bears, they got 3 points, and we get 7, and we get 3 points, and you're not looking at it as a slow start. Finish your question.
No, go ahead. What do you think? How do you go about trying to start faster? Because the score was what the score was again last night.
Make plays.
Yeah.
Is that okay to say?
It's also a situation where you can't press. You can't start pressing because if you try to press and create a turnover, I'm going to force a turnover. That's when you give up big plays. That's when you have blown assignments. When you try to do more than what you're supposed to do, the plays will come. Do your job, and do your job well.
Yeah, trust it, man. I think that's a great point because I think about what Joe Wood Jr. said about not wearing capes, and I think that is, it sounds so silly, but it's like the most perfect analogy for football. Like you're not one person trying to make yourself look good. You're one of 11 playing together. So like the offensive linemen don't overreach. If you got a chip help, make sure you're chipping. Defensively, right? I don't need to press for this pick. If I just make the tackle, we live to play another down. We got a lot of reps in the game. Yeah. I'm a part of a bigger ecosystem. And I think like that, if they can do that, I think they're going to be okay. They're going to be a tough out every single week. It just can everybody commit to that and own that, I think would be the thing I would point to.
I don't know that Dallas's record will allow to have Dak in this conversation yet, but he's playing like a potential MVP
Ballin'.
To this point. He's lighting it up. I think Baker Mayfield's probably in that conversation. Bijan, especially with the numbers he's posting, is probably in that conversation now. But I don't know how much you've seen of Dak so far, but he's had an incredible start to his season. So what are you thinking about defensively as you try to handle the Cowboys this weekend?
As I'm looking at the Cowboys, first of all, you mentioned Dak, and he is just making all kind of plays. He has so much confidence in his ability, not just in structure, like getting the ball out when they're supposed to be, but even out of the pocket, some of the throws that he's made down the field, man, just he's trusting his guys. And it's not just CeeDee Lamb and Pickens. There have been some other like secondary, ancillary
Ancillary, love it.
Yeah, I got that word from you. And I got that new word. I'm going to have to go back and get that, research it. But he's playing with so much confidence. And he realizes, they realize this too. We're probably, in order to win football games, we're going to have to score 30, 35 points per game. So they go into each game with that mindset. So they're going to be aggressive.
Yeah, and I love the way their offense is designed. There's a lot of really quarterback-friendly concepts, and Dak is feeling himself, like ripping seams, deep digs, 50-50s. Like, he's playing really good. Like, and you mentioned, like, MVP. It definitely feels like he's playing at that level at the moment. And so when you're playing a quarterback who's feeling themselves like that, it's really, to me, about surviving the big plays and, like, defending every blade of grass. So hopefully the defense can kind of get that together.
And you saw what the Bears did last night. You talked about potentially replicating it defensively. Do you think Dallas can? Can they do that to Washington's offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody can. As long as you feel comfortable with your man guys on the perimeter, like, then you can do it. And
Bland and Diggs. So we're going to find out. Do they trust Bland and Diggs the way DQ and Joe Witt used to trust them down in Dallas?
But it's Bland and Diggs, but it's also like who's going to match up with Zach Ertz, who's going to match up. You know what I'm saying? Like, it all maths up there because like you can find a matchup in man-to-man coverage.
If I recall correctly, so Matt Eberflus is their defense coordinator now. I believe he's not really a high blitz type of guy.
He's a big cover three guy, like old school cover three, soft zone, bend but don't break. So he hasn't really done a lot of that, but you know the formula has been laid out.
So and then they don't have the benefit of a bye week.
That's true. That's a good point. That's a great point.
They just watched our game Monday night, and they already put some of their game plan in prior to even seeing our game Monday night. So are they going to all of a sudden say, "Hey, these are the things we want to do"?
Especially if we don't major in them, it's going to be hard
exactly.
to do.
Do we have the guys that can get this done?
And he's notorious for kind of sticking to his thing, which is like these softer zone coverages.
Yeah.
I think they could physically do it if they wanted to. I don't know if he is a guy that's going to make that transition.
All right, we'll get over it fast. Take a flight down to Dallas. Get ready for an annual visit to the Big D. Take on the Cowboys, and that will do it for the Booth Review. We'll talk to you next Monday. Booth Review was filmed at the Big Bear AI Command Center studio. Big Bear AI offers mission-ready AI for a rapidly evolving world, proudly protecting the Washington Commanders and its fans.